Hello. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the U.S. If you're in the U.S. Just waiting for my friend Nadine to join me. We're going to talk about Love Me, my book, the book series. Oops, there's a pen hanging out. And we're going to talk about some themes in there, specifically unlearning. And she has some questions. As if you've been following us, we've been talking about themes in the book that have come up as Nadine has been reading the book, and she's been asking questions. So we thought we would share all of that with you here. And here she is. We'll talk more about that in a second. Let me let her in. Hey, Erin. Just waiting for Nadine. She should be. I hear her coming in. There you are. Hello.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. Very good.
Need to
Very
back
good.
up a little bit because now that kind of zooms in. So yeah, I was just saying before you joined that we've been talking about themes in the book as you've been reading it and having questions and wanting to dive deeper, which I so appreciate you wanting to do that. And it's not often we get to do that with the author of the books that we're reading. So,
No, I'm very
um,
lucky, aren't I?
and
I'm so lucky.
yeah, and it's such a reminder too that we can read a book and then it's like, well, what do we do with that once we've read it or kind of gleaned those wisdoms? And then it can stop there unless we talk about it and share it. So that's why we're doing what we're
Yes.
doing here. And I think it's such a beautiful time for that. And especially the topic that we're going to talk about today, which is unlearning.
Yes, it really is. And we have talked about it before in our last Instagram live, but
Hmm.
it is, I mean, I've got questions on how to go, well, how you realize you need to unlearn. That's where it starts, isn't it? You know, what
Right.
happens with them. And also about talking about what we talked about before about the trauma and how sometimes that is something, you know, to unlearn maybe something that's happened to us and we've created new habits and patterns around that.
Around that. Yeah.
But the main thing I want to share, because I was the same myself, is to share the fact that sometimes we don't realize that we need to unlearn and then learn again, and it's quite a process. So that's really where I want to go with our conversation today, with questions popped in there. So is that
Yeah.
okay with you to go
That's
with that?
perfectly fine. And, I
Mm.
just want to say too, or introduce you properly for people that are joining us for the first time and say, these are our Love Me Chit Chats. And this is Nadine Searle that's with me. She is the founder of Calmer Self and has many methods that help support people in their healing. The Calmer Self method, it's a six-step process, but it's always unique to the person she's working with, which is so beautiful. And it's all intuitive, it's all energy work. And I just want to speak to that because it's so important that we can talk about these things and learn and go through our healing process, but sometimes we need people to support us in that. We both do that
Yeah.
energy work that I think is so important. So just wanted to shout that out. and
Oh,
and yeah.
thank you, thank you so much, because this is one of the reasons that we're talking about this, isn't it? Obviously, we have your beautiful book that I am reading slowly, digesting,
Mhm.
questioning, working on. You know, it brings up new things all the time, and it is wonderful. And I know that was partly your intention with the book, wasn't it, for people to really feel it? And you share
Yes.
your story so beautifully that it
Hmm.
really does highlight quite a lot of topics for people to dig a bit deeper with. So it's
Hmm.
really valuable in that way. And you're so open with how you've gone through things yourself. But from that point of view as well, you know, the work that you do is highly intuitive with your beautiful Reiki, and you're sort of supporting and helping people with exactly what they need.
Mm-hmm.
I have experienced that many, many times, and I will continue to do so,
Yeah.
because it really helps me on my ongoing journey. Because like we have said before, haven't we? We never stop learning.
We
We never
never
stop.
stop learning. Yeah.
Yeah, never stop revisiting, do we, these things?
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes when I mention the word trauma, you know, past trauma comes up sometimes for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I dealt with that, but it can still come up. Something can trigger me, and I go, and then it's really nice to have this support around you. And I know I come to you very often, and when I say come to you, we're in different countries, you know, it's all
It's
virtual,
virtual.
but
Yep.
it works so beautifully, doesn't it? And this is something, again, for everybody to realize, you know, whoever you have to support you, you don't have to be in the room with them. You don't have to be even in the same country. You know, what we do together works so beautifully, doesn't it? And it really, really helps me.
It helped, and you've helped me as well with the with your work. I've experienced that for myself, and I think it's such a good point as practitioners. We, you know, for us to continue our own healing, and like you said, it's never ending, and that's not in a negative way. That's in a positive
No,
way, because
no.
once this is a path we choose, and it's about yeah, not expecting to reach the finish line, but to always be open to explore more and deeper, and
Yeah, yeah.
just evolve into a higher consciousness in the process. So, um, so yeah, I think, you know, and you spoke to about how do we know what we need to unlearn, or how do we go about doing that, or, you know, how
Yes,
does that
yeah,
even fit in the conversation or the process? And I think, so I can share what I feel, or, you know, my own experience. I think from when I wrote the book Love Me, you know, we've talked about that before. It was prompted at the end of a relationship, and I kind of questioned why I was showing up a certain way in relationships, and all relationships, and this was a romantic relationship, but I realized a pattern in every relationship, work, family. You know, why was I um, behaving in certain ways? I say, like, shaving off pieces of myself to
yes,
fit in
yeah.
whatever the dynamic is. So,
Mm,
and what was part of that process, you know, was doing the self inquiry, but going back to explore into my childhood, as we've talked about a lot of times before. But it really started with questioning, or not questioning, but going into, like, understanding my belief system and why I had certain beliefs. And that's like such a broad spectrum, because it's not just beliefs about myself, beliefs about the world, the way that I see the world, the way that I view the world, the way that I operate in the world. And so it was really this, I guess, experience, an ongoing experience of just kind of like going on this little exploration of why, questioning why, and why do I believe
mm,
that? Like, is that something that aligns with who I am right now? Or did I just accept it to fit in? And, you know, because that's the way it's always been. And I think a lot of us get caught up in that, just kind of moving through life, and not really paying attention to what we're doing and why we're doing it necessarily, even
yeah,
around, okay, so today's Thanksgiving, even around holidays, and why we celebrate, and what the
yes,
story is around that. So
yeah,
even that, in fact, that was a big learning for, or unlearning for me, was unlearning the things I was kind of, I grew up in as kind of just automatic behaviors or responses, or whatever, that maybe didn't necessarily align with what I had learned. Because once we learn something, we once we know something, we can't unknow it. So, like, if we
mm,
learn
mm,
something different, or realize, or hear or understand something, come across a new wisdom that kind of is a different viewpoint than the belief we currently held, that's an opportunity to maybe shift our perspective and be open to something new. And one of the things that we can, or one of the ways we can unlearn, is to kind of be open to being wrong about something,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I think it just shows. I see from you so much courage, and because you know I've read not all of the book, but I've read a lot. You know, you are brave enough to question, you're brave enough to actually say, what is this all about? My experience in the past, and I know with a lot of people that come to me looking for help, they they are scared of questioning. They're scared of, you've talked about pressing the easy button, that was one of our past conversations, wasn't it? And also about really digging deep. We're scared. I was really scared to go there. We tend to go, oh, that hurts, something's not comfortable. We tend to, well, I did anyway, run away a little bit, distract ourselves, get busy, do all these things so that we don't feel and we don't go there and we don't question and we don't learn, never mind unlearn. We don't even go there and go, what was that all about? You've just said quite a few things that you questioned, and actually it is our fundamental beliefs, our things that we grew up around, what we were taught in school, that kind of thing. And again, not to blame anybody, there's no wrong here,
Right.
but to get to a point sometimes where we are brave enough to question and go, hang on a minute, do I believe this story? Is this true? Is this really my story? That's what I put that question, and I still do. Is this my story? And do I need to hold on to it? That's the thing, isn't it? And that is the thing of, first of all, recognizing, isn't it? There's an old habit, an old pattern here that maybe isn't serving me so well. What can I do about it? And
Right.
that's where I feel the support comes in, because I know with all of those questions that I've had with myself, I have really needed the support to work through them.
Right.
It's been difficult for me, and even for someone to even point out initially that I needed some help, because I didn't realise. I mean, as an example, hopefully for people to understand better, is my people-pleasing habit. And I started off life that way. I wanted to make everybody happy. I thought that was my job, and I think I was born that way. And I just got very, very good at it very quickly. I will make that person happy. That was all I thought about. Whatever's going on in the world, it's my job to make them happy. I thought I could do that. I'm so clever and I can do that. And I did it. And as I grew up, it was very, and in a way we're taught that, aren't we? Your parents say, be good, do what you do, be quiet. I was always told to be quiet, to make other people happy. And then at school, the same thing was reinforced. That's the way we teach children in schools, isn't it? Fit in, do what you said, didn't you? Slicing that bit off yourself so you fit in. It's classic, isn't it? And then so my people pleasing, and then when I started work, it served me even better. I was
Right.
in the corporate world, I went into sales and everything. All of this, like, oh, I will say what people want to hear. I will do what people want, and then they'll be happy. And then, as I say, sales-wise, it worked really well for me. But it took almost, I wouldn't say tragedy, but it took a lot for me to actually realise that wasn't a good thing that I had learnt, and how much damage it was doing to me. So it took almost a crisis happening for me to actually go, hang on a minute, this people pleasing is not good for me, because in all of this pleasing people, I was not pleasing myself. I wasn't even recognising what I needed. I was so focused on other people. And again, you describe it beautifully in your book, don't you, how much you are doing things for other people's benefit and not
Right.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So when I first had it, as I say, pointed out to me with the therapist, actually, then it was like, oh, a little bit of, I was scared. I wanted to go away from that and go, I don't really want to talk about this. This is what I do. This is good. I thought it had served me well. So it took quite a lot of unraveling, unlearning, if you like, to even get to the point of going, oh, well, this isn't the best way for me to be. How can I then change? What can I do? And that took a lot of courage for me to go, well, I can do this differently, and then to work out how to do it differently. So now I still do make people happy. I want to make people happy, but I include myself in that mix as well. So I make
Right.
sure that I'm happy too.
Yeah.
And to a point, I've even turned it around that far to go, make sure I'm happy first. But then but I still do want to make other people happy. I mean, you're the same, aren't you? We want to help people and we want to make
Yes.
people happy. So I hope that explains to people a little bit of an example of how that was for me. I've just noticed a comment here from someone going, it makes others uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And
I was
that's
just going to
so
address
true.
that too, because it ties into what
It's
you were
so
just saying
true.
about people pleasing. You know, we
Mm,
don't want to be uncomfortable, but we don't want others to be uncomfortable.
mm,
So we, like you said,
yeah.
we start to do things that make other people happy, and it kind of goes against the grain with what we're
Mm,
feeling inside. And we don't have to do that. We don't, you know, there's so many of us that's how we're conditioned, just to kind of like, this is the way things are, and if you don't
mm,
participate, then you're kind of like the black sheep. Well, you
yes.
mentioned like having the courage, like it's the courage to kind of, you know, to when you see something that doesn't align, or it might make somebody else uncomfortable, but you know that
Yes.
that's, you know, what is aligned with your soul, then it's okay
Mm,
to be different than what everyone else is doing. And it's having the courage to do that is going to offer an invitation for others to kind of, you know, do something differently as well. And that's how change happens. It
yeah.
happens on the individual level first,
Yes.
always. And so, and to your
Yeah.
point about people pleasing, and yes, we still want to make others happy as well, but like you said, that's such a good point, that, you know, if we're not happy, then that's just building resentment inside, and that never
Mm,
ends up well. So
no.
it is about kind of, you know, there's that balance, and it's what I learned, or what I realized about myself, was that I had abandoned myself in trying
Mm,
to please everybody else. And it was people pleasing. That's, you know,
mm,
the term for it. Shaving off pieces of myself was how because that's how, what it felt like I was doing.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I'm, you know, it's like, where am I then? You know, who am I now in this, you know, kind of version that other people want me to be? So,
Yes.
and that makes other people happy. So
Mm,
it's about, and it also ties into, you know, the people pleasing. And because like we want other people to be happy with what we're doing, it's a lot of that, it's attached to our worth. And so a lot of us, like,
mm,
that's what we are constantly doing. Like, I mean, might be the motivation for it is to prove our worth in society as a whole, like whatever group we're talking about, whether that's the corporate world or in our family dynamic or whatever. And it's, so it's like part of the unlearning is to be able to let that go. And it
yes.
sounds so like it's easy, and we know it's not easy to do that. It's hard because perfection and being good and right is so conditioned within us, that is like, it takes a long time to unlearn that. It takes a long time to,
Yes. Mm,
you know, to kind of like, that's why, like, pausing for a moment, whatever it is, like, is, and to kind of like choose how you're going to react, or
yes.
choose how you're
Yeah.
going to respond,
Mm,
or
mm,
whatever it is, to have that
yeah.
empowered, you know, empowerment within, embodied, that inner
Mm,
power in the choices that we're making, instead of just continuing on with the way things are, if it's not working
yeah.
for us. I mean, if it's working for you, then fine, but
That is
a
fine.
lot
That
of
is
it
fine.
isn't.
Mm,
And I know it
mm,
wasn't for me. And
mm,
that's why I chose to kind of, you know, and to say, hey, I might not like what I'm going to find out about myself when I do this self inquiry. And you know, it's not just a one and done. It's always, like we said, ongoing. But it's always going to get me to understand myself better, and to show up as a more heart-centered being, I think. And
yeah.
we can't show up for others if we're not first, like, firmly rooted in our own
Mm,
worth and self-love. Like, we can't truly show up for them.
yeah.
You know, we're operating from an empty tank
Yeah.
then.
And it's so true, isn't it? Because it is so important in the work that we both do, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That we are showing up as our authentic
Yeah.
selves and we're being true to ourselves, because otherwise we can't help other people, can we? And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't sit right. And we know it, and other people know it. So it is very, very important that we do this ongoing work ourselves, and we do, don't we? And I think as well, it's very much when you talk about things like trauma, sometimes we have built up a habit, we have learnt something because of a real need, and it
Mm-hmm.
is the ego protecting us, isn't it? You know, and sometimes, and again, we don't realize that we've done that. I remember things now, I've had, you know, gone through it all from childhood, that I put in place that were necessary, and then something will trigger me now even, and then
Mm-hmm.
I go, oh, why am I reacting like that? And again, that courage to ask those questions and go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, realize what that is. But it all starts with me anyway, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, to actually recognize it first, what it is. And that sometimes takes a bit, and that's where the help and the support comes in, doesn't it? Then it is a question of accepting that pattern, because again, you know, I was in denial that I was behaving in certain ways, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
accepting it, recognizing it, accepting it, honoring it, and actually getting to a place where I go, thank you for this behavior, you know, painful as it was for me, you know, my trauma response, my things that I was doing to keep myself safe when I was younger, that
Yeah.
were still playing out as an adult. And then actually, you know, it sounds strange, but being grateful for that, then getting to a process, and it is a process, isn't it? I don't think you can rush through the steps necessarily, to actually get ready to let that go. And then you get that, you're open then for that relearning, aren't you? And I don't, so would you agree that's the kind of process? Is there anything
It
I've missed
is
out there? Or,
exactly. I feel like there's like so much. That's why we work so well together. Because like you
yes.
just like, I mean, it's spot on for me too. And I think just how you spoke to, yeah, like having an experience in the current reality
Mm,
that kind of that's what offers us that opportunity to kind of look and see where that's coming from. I think one
mm,
of my quotes in the book is every opportunity or every moment is an opportunity for our expansion,
yes.
because it really
Yeah.
is. We can say, why am I, like you said, why am I reacting this way? I've had multiple opportunities for that. Like, I mean,
Mm,
a lot of people might have an opportunity for that today when they're with family, and who can, like, are
yes.
the
Yeah.
most, I'm getting chills, but like the most, the opportunity for us to be triggered, because our a lot of our wounds are from our childhood, and our family is
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
that is just embedded. And it's not, like you
No.
said, to blame anybody. It's just, that's just how we're all wounded. And I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
one thing, like as far as unlearning, is that nobody is perfect, and we're all wounded. And as much as we can heal and do this work and say, hey, why am I reacting this way? There's always going to be another opportunity. So I
Yes.
think that's so important too, to tie back to what you said about the work that we're doing, and that fact that we're still doing our own healing and showing up authentically, because we're
Mm,
not saying, hey, I'm here and you're down here and I'm going to help you. I'm going to save
yeah.
you. No, we are our own savior. First of all, we
Yeah.
have everything we need inside of us to heal. It's just
Mm,
that sometimes we need somebody to help us in that, support us
yes.
through it, hold the space for us to share. And it needs to be a trusting space. So, I mean, that is
Yeah.
part of the work. And like you said, it doesn't have to be in person. Especially all of my work right now, almost all of it is virtual. And that
Yeah.
happened because of COVID. So it's like being open to that shift
Yes.
too. There's another kind of unlearning that we were
Mm,
kind of forced to do.
yes.
So,
Mm,
I mean, there's just so much to say about this, but I feel like, yeah, like unlearning that, or the fact that we don't have to be perfect, that perfection is a myth, that being open to getting it wrong, and
mm,
even even what we thought like helped us heal, that can change too, because like we can then learn, okay, so yes, I explored that, but then we're always seeing things from a different perspective, because we're
yes.
always
Yeah.
constantly changing and evolving. So
Mm,
I think that's one of the important things to remember about unlearning. And it's not, because then again, our conditions can sneak back in and kind of inhibit us from moving forward, or experiencing any growth, because we're saying, well, I've done so much work, I should be further along than I am. And I've
yeah.
said that to myself too many times. And
Oh, I know. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
remembering that, it's okay. Sometimes we need to hover in a spot, or stay kind of like, and feel and process some more, because we're
Mm,
not done with it yet. And I feel like everything is
yes.
like
Yeah.
universally timed for us. So if we're paying
Yeah.
attention to that.
I think that's so true, isn't it? And also that recognizing that, you know, I know I've said it to you before
Mm-hmm.
about I have thought I was done with that, and then something comes back, and you remind me, that's another opportunity. You look at it differently,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yeah.
And that's when it's so lovely to have someone else help you with that, because actually for me, I can just get a bit cross, and actually when someone else can just go, oh, actually, this is maybe a blessing. It's that
Hmm.
kind of thing. And you go, okay, I see it differently now, but I can't always see that for myself. So it's really lovely to have support, isn't it? And to get the fact that, like you say, we're never done, and I
Hmm.
know you've said it before, whenever there's something coming up, it is always an opportunity to go that bit deeper, maybe find another way, maybe look at that again. And that is okay. That
Hmm.
is okay. And that did take me a long time to learn. And as I say, I still need to be reminded sometimes. So,
Yeah. I think we touched on this last time too, but or one of the times we talked about it might have been in the Zoom that we have
mm,
our
mm,
monthly group Zoom, and we'll talk about that. But is
yeah,
that unlearning as well how to navigate something when it's coming up. So to immediate response, because society doesn't like to, we've been conditioned to not express our emotions, or it might not be the right place or the right time for it. And it's
yes,
like,
yeah,
we're human, we're going to have emotions. We can't, like, if we bottle them up, if we stuff them down, we know what happens now. Like, that turns into, well, disease and dis-ease in the body. And
yes, yes,
so unlearning that if I'm feeling a certain way right now, it's okay to feel it, even if
mm,
it is in public. Like, I think that's one of the biggest. I think initially when I started this journey in reading, I'm such a fan of Brene Brown, and she always
yes,
talks about vulnerability, and we can't get anywhere
mm,
without that, because
no, you're
it's
right. Yeah,
that's where the courage comes from, is to be vulnerable.
yes,
And I've always been, kind of criticized for showing emotion, expressing emotion. So and I'm highly sensitive, and that's okay. So I kind of flip that script and say it's kind of like it's a superpower.
mm,
That's where my intuition is. So I think, and
mm,
there's so much, like, there's another avenue for unlearning, because I think one of the underlying reasons why as society we're conditioned to not show our emotions is because that's connected to our intuition. Our intuition is
yes,
our emotional guidance system. So, and our
yeah,
intuition, when it's in full force, is such a power. And we constantly are also suppressing that, saying, oh, that's just like,
don't
something
we?
that, my inner voice, I'll just shut that
Yeah,
down or
don't we
whatever.
rationalize? Yeah,
But
we do that all the
we're
time.
yeah, and we're conditioned to kind of like make fun of it, or say, oh yeah, like, oh, it was just a funny thought I had, or whatever, because it is so powerful. And imagine if we're all using our own emotional guidance systems to navigate
Yes.
life. Like, that kind of is a threat to the current system. So this goes like really deep,
Let's
but
go,
it's
let's go there though. Let's
it's
go there. I
I
think
and
I
maybe
want
we
to
can
encourage
go.
everyone to do that.
I
Yeah.
know, yeah, but I mean, this is what's beneath it. That's why this topic about unlearning is so broad, because there's so much to unlearn, or to,
Yeah.
even to talk about, like, energy work, the work that we do. A lot of people are skeptical about it, especially because we're not in the same location, but we do have to realize that we are energy. Everything is
Yes.
energy. This pen I'm holding is energy. So
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
energy doesn't have any bounds. The boundaries are man-made. Time and space is man-made. So that's why
Yeah.
the energy work, and a lot of times the energy work is what helps really heal, more so than, like, just talking it out, because a lot of our
Yes.
healing cannot be done in the mind. It needs to be done in the heart, in the
This is the
soul.
key, isn't
And
it?
so
It.
that's where the
It's
energy
yeah.
work comes in, because
Mm.
we've got so much buried that we don't even realize how much there is. And then, what we think we know, there's like so much more beneath that. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why unlearning, I think, plays such an important part in the healing process. So being open to something new, being open to possibility, versus rooting further in your beliefs about whatever it is,
Mm.
is
Mm.
is really what unlearning is about.
Yeah. It so does. And you mentioned earlier their perfect example of the learning and unlearning,
Mm-hmm.
because that's talking about suppressing our emotions. We are taught to do that. We do that, don't we? In so
Yeah.
many, it's not appropriate to behave in a certain way. There's all kinds of things what we're taught, and that is suppressing our emotions. And emotions are energy, aren't they? It's not always appropriate to shout and scream and behave the way that we maybe want to when we're hurt or something's happened, but it is important to address it, isn't it, at some point in time. And again, this is where I really love the fact that I know I can come to you and go, oh, this happened. I might not have been able to do anything at the time, but I can talk to you about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can work, like you say, on that energetic level. Because what I love, and I've said it before, when I work with you, I don't have to talk. Yes, we do. But the work is done in silence. The work is done on an energetic level. And
Yes.
that is where it's so beautiful, isn't it? And I know we both work this way, but in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually getting people out of their head into their heart and soul, and actually doing the deep work where it's needed. And it's easier than you think, isn't it? This is what I love about it. It's something that's what I want to share with everyone. It's easier. It's not about talking it through. It's not about, you do feel the feelings, but then there is that, like you say, holding that space to work through them, so that you can find another way. And that's what we both do for people, isn't it?
Yes. And I mean, we do talk it through whatever's coming up, but my point,
Mm,
like, so there's that, because both you and I have our methods, or
mm,
how our approaches, and both of those allow for whatever it is that's underneath that we can't see, the emotion, whatever it is, to
yeah,
rise to the
yeah,
surface, for processing, for speaking out, for, like, kind of identifying what that is. So,
mm,
but it's done, like you said, like, it's in the body. It's not figured
mm,
out in the mind, like we think we can figure it all out in the mind, because
yeah,
we can't.
yeah,
And that's what I think sometimes keeps us stuck. So I personally am always looking for new ways to do the exploration, new tools in my toolbox, so to
mm,
speak.
mm,
So, and I love all of the work that I've been doing with you, because it's helped me kind of go down an avenue that I hadn't addressed before, and really come to some, new understandings about myself, and especially around my relationship with money. So, which you've been
yes,
helping me with recently. So
yeah,
there is always, like, so much that we can, explore and unlearn and relearn, and to expand into new ways of being, not just, kind of maintaining the status quo, and doing what we've always done.
yeah, you're so, so right. And I
So,
just want to remind everybody that we are talking about this because you wrote your beautiful
mhm.
book, Love Me. And have you got it there to put up?
I
And
do, I do.
everybody can get a copy, but the latest edition is your poetry.
Yeah,
You
and I
have
have a copy of
just
that too.
released,
Love Me
which is so
poetry.
beautiful. And again, it cuts to the chase, doesn't it? There
Yeah.
is poetry in your original book,
Hmm.
but you've taken out this poetry, haven't you? And you've added to it. And
Yeah.
sometimes read it. I've read in some of our conversations, haven't I? I've read some of your poems, and they really hit deep, in a way that reading, literature doesn't so much. So I'd encourage everyone to have a look at your poetry and obviously get the book. But again, you're explaining your process and what you've been through in both of these beautiful books, but you are also available to support people on a one-to-one basis, aren't you, to help people
Yes.
with it. And I think it's so, so valuable, isn't it, that people can get to know you through your book,
Hmm.
maybe to start with, and then actually go, oh, this lady can help me, because you can. And
Yeah.
this is how, you're explaining how you do it and what you've been through and what you're still going through. So it's really, really precious, isn't it, to help people in this way. I love it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the books. And if anyone wants to get a copy, there's links in my bio for that. So, and I share my story. I share, like, the first book with the insights woven with the poetry, in that way, just because it was a way for me to channel my emotions and be creative. And I feel like creative expression is that direct connection to our soul.
Mm,
So, but it's also, I shared what I shared because I know I'm not the only one, and I know others can find
that's right.
parallels in their own lives. And that that it's okay, you know, wherever we're at, but we're meant for so much more than what we really have been conditioned to believe that, you know, it's, and so yeah, I just wanted to share that journey of understanding how I had abandoned myself, unlearning, you know, some of the things that I had, some of the behaviors and the beliefs and all of those things that made up this person I'd become that I didn't recognize anymore. So all of that is in the books. And like Nadine said, both of us are here to support you in your own self-exploration and your own healing. And we do a monthly group healing session that started around these topics. And we've, you know, kind of gone from talking about our trauma, some, you know, not even, sometimes we don't even know what our trauma is, or, you know, recognize it, that we have it. And even if we think we don't have it, we have it because we carry it for 7 generations before us. And that's scientifically proven. So that we carry, you know, our ancestors from 7 generations past, their trauma that has been, that is not healed. So I think that's like why you hear so many people talking about healing in this time, because it's the time for it. We're all here for that. And so I invite you, if you would like to join us, you can message either Nadine or myself for the link to the next virtual session, which will be around the next full moon, which I believe is December.
Yeah, we've got the Zoom on December the 7th, and the
7th.
full moon
Yes.
is the day after, so it's just before. And we always like to do it around
Yeah.
moon energy, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful time. But just as well, to make sure that everyone realizes, if you join the Zoom group, you can stay anonymous, because sometimes
Yes.
people don't want to be on camera, don't want to speak. They just want to join in and be part of it. And that is perfectly fine with us, isn't it? We welcome that. We have people that do that, and that is fine, but they still get a lot out of it. So you can join in, but you don't have to speak, you don't have to be on camera, you can just join and listen. And we do go deeper, don't we? We do, you know, people do, if people want to share and talk, then they do, and it's beautiful, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
and it's
That
become
lovely
such a
space.
beautiful space, safe space, trusting space for sharing whatever it is you're going through. And, you know, we've had such, you know, it's just become such a beautiful group, and lots of good things happening out of that too. So, so if you feel called to join us and see what it's all about, like I said, message us. And Nadine, how can people get in contact with you if they want to explore your services?
Yes, on here on Instagram, I'm the Calmer Self Method, which is what I teach people. But everywhere it's Calmer Self, really. Facebook, YouTube, Calmer Self. My website is Calmer Self. It's very easy, and that's where you can find me. And if you've got any questions, especially about what we've talked about today, because it is an ongoing topic, isn't it?
It
Please
is.
reach out to me or Trish, and we'll always answer them personally. So please do ask us questions, because it brings up a lot of questions, doesn't it, what we're talking about?
Yeah, we want to talk about what you are interested in understanding more, want us to talk about. So we're open to suggestions there as well. So thank you for joining. And if you have any questions, you can message us, and we look forward to the next time we get to have a little chit chat about these topics that are coming up in my book, Love Me. So sending everyone so much love, and we will be seeing you soon.
Thank you so much, Trish, and thank you everyone that joined. See you soon.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.